Hey everybody, and welcome to another Jamovi tutorial. In this video, I'm going to talk about a module that has been an add-on for Jamovi for a while now, at least a year, I think. And I just realized that I haven't gone through it, and it's something that I can speak to. There are a few modules up here. As you can see, I've updated them all. There are a few modules in here that I've explored, and I'm just like, this is out of my wheelhouse. I can't do that. So and people have asked me, can you do a video on this module? And I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can. So in this episode, we are going to talk about this module here, UFS. So let's talk a little bit about how you find these modules, because I like to do that every once in a while when I do one of these module videos. So just as far as vocabulary goes, these are all modules up here at the top. They're all the modules, and some of them are base Jamovi modules like t-test, ANOVA, regression, frequencies, exploration, and factor. And then from base R all the way down are add-on modules. And so I have plenty of videos. Take a look at the playlist for sort of toward the end of the playlist, like in the episode 30s through episode 40s, whatever. I have a bunch of modules there, and they're all installed. One thing that is new that I just found out, I don't know where this was placed in the release notes, but I can tell you this, I'm in love. They added a scroll, y'all. They added the module scroll. I mean, this is a full screen window on a 1080p monitor. Look at this. It didn't go back and forth. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's so good. I've been asking that for years, and I didn't, like I said, don't know where it came in the release notes, but they added a scroll. Woo! The only thing that doesn't scroll is the modules button. Okay, so how do you get UFS? How do you get UFS in your Jamovi? Well, you come over to modules here, and look at this. This is massive. Although this is a UI thing that I think they need to fix here. Maybe just keep this window the same size, and then have it scrollable. Worth it. Okay, so ignore all of this and all of this stuff right here, because all of this is pretty much just all of the icons here at the top bar. So this menu is the same as the top bar menu. So how you figure out where you want to add is you can go to Jamovi Library or click on Manage Library. When you click on Jamovi Library, it takes you to what is available. And they also added a search here, search bar, to find out what you need. So let's say I want UFS. We don't need it alphabetized because you can use the search bar now. It is a by character search, just like the data library data search bar in the file menu. So it is, it found everything, but if I just type in R, it'll find all of the stuff that are, including the creators of these packages. So just be aware that if you're like, I don't remember what it's called, I don't know, you can just start typing in letters. The more letters that you put together, though, will dictate what you find. So for example, there are a number of Clinico path models here, and so you can see that if I just type in Clinico, it'll find all of them. So that's a wonderful new addition. And I miss in my previous video from like a week or two ago, I was like, yeah, they added search to the library. This is actually what they meant in the release notes, not in the data library one. So whoops, my bad. But here you go. I just went through it. So let's go grab UFS, shall we? So UFS, tools for confidence intervals and other tricks. It doesn't appear that we have the developer for this. I'm not sure. The UFS module makes functions from the eponymous R package, okay? Which means that this is this UFS name is for the R package itself, okay? These include functions for computing confidence intervals for effect sizes, computing the required sample size for estimating an effect size, so power analysis calculator. It's not as robust as some calculators like GPower, but it's a start, with a confidence interval of a given width, producing diamond plots, creating a multiple response table, and to do some basic operations such as disattenuate or attenuate effect size estimates. So it's a pretty far-reaching package, and I want to go through the vast majority of these options here. And so you can see I already have it installed, so we don't need to go through there. So let's take a look at what it can do here. So we have the UFS. It makes the little curve function there for the F. So if we click on that, you can see all of the options it mentioned. So we have the diamond plots. I'll have to open up some data for the diamond plot. We have effect size confidence intervals for Cohen's D and Pearson's R, and then we have sample size for D and for R. And then we also have this multi-response that we'll take a look at last. Okay, so I'm going to do these two, and then these second two, so the effect size confidence intervals and the sample size / power analysis first, and then we'll do a diamond plot, and then we'll look at multi-response in this video. Okay, so let's take a look quickly at the effect size confidence intervals. So importantly, this is not a data-driven function of the module. Neither is the sample size. These are essentially power analysis tools that you can use for effect sizes and confidence intervals. And of course, these two things tend to be related to one another. And when we put this information into statistical results, we want to use this information to make a robust argument with the data that we already have, that we already analyzed. So for the effect size confidence intervals, what we get is a plot that tells us what the confidence interval would be if we chose a 95% confidence interval and we have a Cohen's D. So this is what we have over here. We have Cohen's D, By default, you will get a 0.5. We have sample size is 128. By default, it will be 128. And then our confidence interval level is default 95%. You'll probably change the top two. I doubt you'll change the bottom two unless you really specifically want a 90 or 99% confidence interval. But of course, 95% is the place we live as social scientists, or the people who are watching these videos are generally going to be using 95% confidence intervals. So you can see with these parameters, we end up computed from a sample of 128 data points, has a 95% interval of 0.15 and 0.85. Okay, so that's great. And then what it'll do is it'll plot that. It'll give you the values up at the top. I did a couple of playing around with it, and it always puts the plots up at the top and just a range of D down at the bottom, and then a density curve that you are probably familiar with 0 down here, and then the density that is created from the curve itself. So you can see here that this 95% confidence interval includes quite a bit of possible effect sizes for Cohen's d. Now, let's say that we found a small effect size, 0.3, and we had a sample. You can see as soon as you make a change, you can see that our information here has changed, negative 0.05 and 0.65. But I want to say that we had a sample of 500. And so let's take a look here. That is a pretty tight confidence interval. So with a sample of 500 people, which is a pretty powerful study for most uses, we have almost zeroed in pretty nicely on the observed effect size, and our confidence interval is 0.12 and 0.48, lower bound, upper bound, respectively. So we have a tight distribution here. But what if we didn't have a very powerful study? What if we have a sample size of 30? Then you can see that even though we may have observed an effect size of 0.3, it might actually not be that case. Now, it's interesting here. Cohen's d is more or less reciprocal around 0, right? So negative 0.42 is the same as 0.42, but this confidence interval is not the range of possible effect sizes. It's our confidence that we found the exact precise effect size of 0.3 somewhere in this infinite number of effect sizes based on our parameters here. 95% confidence interval, 30 people or 30 data points, and then 0.3 as our Cohen's d. And you can see how much wider it is than what we found, and we'll go even more wider. You can see that we are inching far and far away from using a small effect size. We have 0.96 to 0.14. We are not sure at all where this effect size is in this effect size distribution. Not at all. So that's how you do that one. Okay, so let's do the effect size confidence interval for Pearson's R, and there we go. All right, so ignore the D now. We're looking down here. I can't scroll up for you until I have more things. So for the effect size confidence interval, we do a similar thing where we have Pearson's R, probably what we have observed, our sample size, how big, there it is, and then our confidence interval, 0.95, okay? So these three parameters, just like Cohen's d, and we get our confidence interval. So 0.3 is what we observed. Our 95% confidence interval is 0.21 and 0.39. Not bad with 400, okay? And then, well, I'm going to leave it at 0.3. You can see that if we increase this to 1,000, the distribution gets even skinnier, and you can see that the confidence interval gets a lot tighter. More confident that the Pearson's R was what we observed, okay? Now, if I take that down to 100, that's 0, 100, you can see that it gets wider, and we have a much larger interval here, 0.11 to 0.47. That's quite a lot bigger than with 4 times as many people. So you can see that this is a good way to calculate a 95% confidence interval for something if you potentially already have the data from another thing, and you were like, oh shoot, I should have gotten some confidence intervals. And so there we go. Now, just really briefly, I will show you the sample sizes. So if you open this sample size, you're asked now for creating a sample size from a known value of Cohen's d. So what is the effect that you're looking for? Smaller here, the better. The half width. So how much more do you want your confidence interval to be? So how wide do you want your confidence interval to be? So this is plus or minus 0.1 and then 95% confidence interval. And through these 3 parameters, the calculation will give you the amount of participants that you need. So even with the default here, I can just show you here to estimate a Cohen's d of 0.5, which is a medium effect size for Cohen's d with a 95% confidence interval with a maximum half width of 0.1 or less, so plus or minus 0.1. At least 1,585 participants are required. 1,585. Holy moly, right? Because that's with a very small half width. What if we were like, okay, well, that confidence interval can be a little bit wider, so 0.25 half width. So 0.75 or 0.25 on either side of my Cohen's d, we get a wider distribution and far fewer people. 254. Quite a bit easier to manage if you don't have the time and the resources to do that. Same for Pearson's R, okay? Again, half width is how much added, how much less than your stated R value do you want for this confidence interval? And so with the default of 0.3, 0.1, and 95%, we want a 0.3 or stronger with a 95% confidence interval with a maximum half width of 0.1 or less. At least 320 participants are required. And if we increase that half width by, let's just say 0.25, just like I did in the last one, you can see that we are looking for, something between 0.03 and 0.53. And you can see that we only need 53 participants to achieve that goal, right? So this is sort of like a power analysis that's like within a range, as opposed to the power analyses that you might do in G-Power, for example. Okay, let's do the diamond plot, but we need to open some data for that. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going up to the hamburger menu. I'm going to go to Open. I'm going to go to Data Library. And instead of all of this stuff, which comes with some of the packages, I'm just going to open the Big Five Dolan et al. Data. I think I skipped it up. And it opened up a new window, unknowingly. So I'm going to do this. Okay. When you hit Option in to make this the window bigger in macOS, it also activates the keyboard. You just hit Option again to clear that out, so you don't have to worry about it. I noticed that as I was trying to make windows bigger. It's kind of funny because Option acts as the Alt key for this function, for the keyboard navigation function. Okay, let's open up UFS. So we have all of these. Let's open up the diamond plots. So diamond plot. So we are going to make a diamond plot with some means, and let's put in just 2 items. Okay, you can see that the diamond plot are created from these scatters. Okay, diamond plot for the 95% confidence intervals for the means of neuroticism and extroversion based on the data set with 500 rows, 500 in which have complete data. So it'll tell you if you have any missing data in this. So if we put the other ones in there, you can do that, and it'll show you how all of these means are looking, and the diamonds themselves are the 95% confidence intervals, and we can change this to be to look at see what 90 looks like. Okay, a little bit smaller, and then we can change this to 99, a little bit slightly fatter diamonds. Okay. Of course, this plot can't be any bigger, so choose your means wisely. Okay. You can also uncheck raw data, which will get rid of the scatters. Okay. And it'll just show you the diamonds at 95 or whatever confidence interval that you want. So it'll show you just all of this. And if we put the raw data back on, obviously they'll get smaller, but you can see the same exact pattern here for all of these. Unfortunately, there are no other labels, so you have to assume that this is neuroticism, extroversion, openness, agreeableness, and conscientiousness down here. So, be aware of your ordering here. So dev of package, perhaps a y-axis for the mean names. So that is the diamond plot. Okay, so you need to have, for multi-response, you need to have 2 non-text-based categorical variables. So what I'm doing in the tooth growth, which is one of the default versions, is I am creating a dummy-coded version for dose and whatever this sup variable is. I don't know what it is. I have an OJ versus VC. I don't know. So once you set up the data like that and get rid of the kind of variable it is, it can't read a text. So just be aware of that. If we scroll to UFS and we click on multi-response, we can then put sup and dose into the variables, and you can see the multi-response for sup and dose. So 30 sup and 20 dose. Percentage is 60 and 40. Percentage of cases, you can see that not all of these align, because the endorsed option is 1. If we do the endorsed option is 2, that doesn't change anything. If we do the endorsed option is 3, you can see that sup doesn't have 3, but dose does, and 20 of them, so a third of the participants have done 3. So this is how you can sort of find out frequencies of individual responses on item-based survey, or a Likert scale. You can get multi-response and break them out and see how many people chose 5, how many people chose 1, and so on and so forth. You kind of don't need to do this if you're not working in the UFS module already. You can get this information from frequencies and under the exploration tab. So you can use, I don't know if I find any use from multi-response, but it might be useful if you are working in that way. So that is the UFS module in Jamovi. If you have any comments, suggestions, questions, and other feedback, please leave those down in the comments below. I get to all of them. Thank you for watching. Bye.